right, call this city council meeting to order August 5th, 2025 at 7 p.m. We have already done the flag salute. We have everyone here in case there is a fire call. Both Captain Slaughter and myself will have to be excused if we need to respond. And Councilperson Heather Baumgartner will be our takeover after that. Well, we will still have a quorum. So let's go to approval of minutes, council meeting minutes, July 1st, 2025.
And move to approve the minutes of July 1, 2025 city council meeting as presented.
Second that. Yeah, I got a motion and second. Is there any discussion about our council meetings? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We'll go to the financial report. By our finance director.
Thank you. We in June sold 206 North Main Street, so that building has new owners. As you can see, they've been started watering and painting the building, and they've been working on it. So we're happy to see some development going on there with the sale of that building. And so those funds are what make up a big chunk of what you see in revenue received this month for the general fund. Also, our park master plan, we're working in conjunction with the Boardman Park and Recreation District, so they have paid their portion of that consultant fee to us. And we have received that in the month of June, so that's also included in there. Our water fund, we looked into it. We also looked into the use of electricity, how much the pumps were using, how much they were running, and it came back to everybody was just using a lot less water. So for the year, as of June 30th, we did end the year with an 18% shortfall, which is about $243,000. We're still looking at it, but in the month of July, it did climb up. The usage was about 17%, which if we just divide it out by the 12 months, it should have been about 8-9%. So that's a good sign that water usage is on the rise. I don't know if it was just we had wetter climate, cooler days, or kind of our weird weather where we had 2 really hot days and the temperature would come down for a week or so. And but it was just everybody was using a lot less water. Luckily though, our expenses remained under what we had budgeted as well, so we didn't end up in the red for the year. It just made things a little bit tighter. The garbage fund is completely the opposite. We did the supplemental budget because we were getting our invoices from sanitary disposal coming in at a much higher amount than anticipated, but that's just because there was so much construction going on, and they ordered the big 22 yards, and it was just the demand for services. So that one has, and it hasn't slowed down because of course construction's busy months are the summer months, so those are still going. That one we ended with approximately 135,000 in additional revenues than what we had budgeted. But it also meant that our expenses were higher, although we were within our budget. And again, like I said, it's the busy time for construction, so garbage services right now are just moving right along, just on the rise. Our building fund, it had a huge deposit. One of those large projects that's usually built in phases in Morrow County. They have started the practice of paying for all of the phases, all the plan reviews, all the permits for all of it all at once. So here is the big payment for that came in June. 50% of the permit fees will be dispersed out next month because we have an IGA with Morrow County for providing those building department services. So in July, you'll see a bunch of money going out. A lot will have to do with these big payments that came in June. Those are the big ticket items that I want to report to you. Everything else is kind of just the ordinary.
Any questions? All right, thank you. All right, I always forget this at the beginning to give people the opportunity to speak during public comment portion of the meeting. If you wish to speak in public comment, please request a speak card and turn it into the city clerk the beginning of the meeting. We'll go right to our next formal proceedings, the public hearing. The public hearing on amendment file number 25-000299 is called to order. Requested to amend the City of Boardman Development Code to add standards allowing the use of shipping containers. Changes are proposed to chapter 1.2 definitions, chapter 2.1 residential, chapter 2.2 commercial districts, chapter 2.3 general industrial, chapter 2.4 light industrial, and chapter 4.4 conditional use permits. The hearing this evening will be conducted as follows. First, a staff report followed by additional correspondence that has been received. Questions of staff from the city council. Public testimony in the following order: testimony in favor of the amendment, testimony opposed to the amendment, neutral testimony if any, questions of staff if any by the city council, and then discussion by the city council. A decision may be made by the city council at the close of the hearing, or the matter may be continued to a time and date in the future. If the matter is reset to a time and date certain in the future, this will be the only notice of that date you will receive. If you wish to speak, please fill out a testimony form and submit it to the city clerk. I will then call on people who want to speak. Any questions should be addressed through me. Because the hearing is being recorded, please state both your name and address for the record when you come to the podium. Please keep the testimony concise and to the point. Give the number of people here. We will limit testimony to 3 minutes per person. Please note failure to raise an issue with sufficient specificity to afford the city council and the other parties an opportunity to respond to the issue prohibits an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. At this time, I ask the members of the city council to disclose any conflict of interest. Please indicate the nature of the conflict and whether you intend to participate in or abstain from the hearing. At this time, is there anybody who would like to disclose a conflict of interest? Planning official Carla McLean will now present the staff report.
Thank you. So this is a conversation that's been going on for a little while. We've had a couple folks come in and testify in front of this body as part of public comment about a desire to be able to utilize. Oh, not on? Sorry, you're fine. Oh, now I can hear me echo. Okay. That wanted to use shipping containers, in one instance in a commercial setting and in another in a residential setting. Shipping containers have by policy, loosely by policy, I guess I will say, have been allowed in the industrial and commercial areas for a long time in Boardman. I think what this does is gives us the ability to better talk to those users about, you know, please paint them, please cover up the markings, you know, let's make them at least look nice, be compatible. The way this is written, it'll also open that door for residential use. The last time I was in front of this body and we talked about this, I shared some language from the city of Klamath Falls. And we talked about how that it provided a framework that seemed to kind of fit, I think, where you were at in particular about your comfort level and kind of opening this door a little bit. And so we utilize that. What I will tell you is as we started to import that into our current development code language, a couple of inconsistencies showed up. And we also have some language in the world of planning. We try to get to where standards are what we call clear and objective. In other words, you can look at it and go, yep, I can easily understand how that standard can be met. And by doing A, they've met the standard. And what we found is that in our accessory uses and structures chapter, we had a couple of things that were anything but clear and objective. So we started to manage that a little bit and change some of that language around just within the framework of where we placed the opportunity for shipping containers for the residential zone. Hoping to not only be more clear and objective about how somebody might use a shipping container, but just more clear and objective about sheds, shops, those kinds of installations more in general. So it's one of many things that we need to clean up in the development code, but it was an opportunity, we had it open, we kind of took a look at those. We also thought long and hard about how to incorporate the language into the code and what all it would really take to be clear about what we were intending. So, hence, that's why we added 4 definitions to the definitions chapter. We added some specific standards for this particular activity or shipping container, for commercial and industrial purposes as an occupiable space in the conditional use permit chapter, and then we added allowance language in each of the other chapters, the residential, commercial, general industrial, and light industrial. The staff report, just kind of outlines the criteria that are applicable to a text amendment. This was a public hearing in front of the planning commission, gosh, I think like 2 weeks ago. Time's flying, and they do, there was some really good discussion at the planning commission, and we actually made a number of changes. So when you look at, when there's changes to the red line, those are changes from the planning commission, public hearing. And of course, that's posted if, you know, if you wanted to, you could go back and take a look at that. I felt really good about the discussion at the conclusion, and they are forwarding this to you, with a do adopt recommendation. I'm just gonna hit the high levels of what's in the text change, just because I think it's more important than what the staff report actually says in some respects. The definitions that we added, we identified a definition for a shipping container and what shipping container reuse is. But because we're also making them occupiable, not habitable in the commercial and industrial zones, we added definitions for what habitable space means and what occupiable space is. And I worked closely with Glenn McIntyre, our building official, because we've also made some clear statements in our development code when some of these things that maybe wouldn't necessarily trigger a building permit will still require a building permit. And interestingly enough, that's actually more of a problem. I don't think it'll be a problem with shipping containers, because anytime you puncture a shipping container with something that's larger than like 8 by 8 inches, you actually have to have it engineered in a review. But what's interesting is we've had a lot of people cite hickory sheds at 200 square feet, which actually at 200 square feet triggers a building permit review and over 200 square feet. And they're not giving, just saying, oh, the guys who sell them say you don't have to get a permit, and so that seems to be an enforcement issue. So we have a really clear statement now in our development code, if adopted, that says you have to get a building permit for sheds in your backyard, you know, at this square footage and higher, because it's not us, it's the state who requires that. So those are the definitions that we added. Then within the residential standards, it's under accessory uses and structures, and particularly under number 3, the design requirements. And you'll see that we have some things we struck out. And then again, we amended a little bit through the planning commission discussion process. And then the second page that I'm showing there in the residential, I think I don't actually have the PDF version, but is where we say accessory structures over 200 square feet will be required to obtain a building permit. So we also try to create more distinction relative to how the design criteria is applied based on the size. The larger it gets, the more design criteria you have to apply to that shed, not necessarily to the shipping container. The shipping containers, we really talked through what we would require. And you'll notice that from the original language that staff had proposed, there's a couple of things that the planning commission said, no, that seems like it's too much. That might be onerous, that maybe if we do it a little bit differently. So the changes you're seeing there in the shipping container language are changes from the planning commission. When you get to the language for the commercial zone, again, it can, because, so the example we've seen coming here in the commercial arena is from Miss Navarro with Cafe Cultura. And that structure is actually accessory to the Sunrise Cafe on that particular lot. But there could be a situation where it wouldn't be the accessory structure, it could be the primary structure. that could be constructed out of a shipping container. So again, we try to make sure that, both primary and accessory structures on commercial land could be, this building material could be used. But we are, for storage purposes, they have to be, container markings have to be removed or covered, damaged or rusty containers shall not be permitted. And then again, we are requiring a building permit, and if it's for storage, it can't be occupiable or habitable. If it's going to be occupiable, then you have to go through the conditional use permit process. And that language is just duplicated verbatim for the commercial, the industrial, both industrial zones, the light industrial and the general industrial. When you get to the conditional use permit criteria, there's a number of specific things that are called out. The last item on the list was added a number of years ago when medical marijuana dispensaries and grow facilities were authorized in Boardman, kind of. A lot of mapping restrictions. So that was E, so we added F. Shipping containers as occupiable structures. And it was an interesting discussion at Planning Commission. Some things got added to this. It's very clear that they can only be repurposed as an occupiable structure in the commercial or industrial use zones. So if somebody were to come in and say, can I build a house? No, that's not what this is allowing. It doesn't mean we might not get to that conversation at some point in time, but today, this is very narrowly defined. They can be cited as either a primary or secondary structure. All citing standards of the underlying use zone are still applicable. Regardless of square footage, will require a building permit from the building official and the submittal of engineered plans. So even if they're using an 8x20 shipping container, and that doesn't necessarily trigger the 200 square foot requirement for, well, actually it would, because this is in a commercial zone. So at 100 square feet, it would trigger the building permit review. But even if they did something and they cut that in half and they were trying to convert something smaller into occupiable structure, we're saying here, if to be occupiable, it has to be engineered, you have to provide plans and you have to get a building permit. And then we kind of brainstormed some things that would, from, again, in the commercial zone more so, but even in the industrial zone, if again, if it's going to be occupiable, what kinds of things should be done to, attached, made a part of that shipping container as it's being repurposed to give it a design element. And so we came to the conclusion that we wanted to see at least 3 of the following design elements, which would be outside lighting, painting it with 2 or more colors, adding a window, putting trim on that window, adhering canopy features, and then doors, including the public access doors. And some of those things are gonna just naturally occur. And again, I'm gonna pick a little bit on our person who's testified a number of times about their desire for this. If you do a drive-through coffee, you're gonna have to have a door for an employee. You're gonna have a window to take orders and serve through. You're probably pretty easy to trim that window. You may want a canopy to keep the rain off people who come through. So I think achieving those design elements, it's not a high bar. You're gonna accomplish most of that anyway as you repurpose that shipping container for that structure. So that's kind of a really high level summary of kind of where the planning commission landed and what their recommendation is. And I think with that, I would conclude my staff report and attempt to answer any questions you all may have.
You may have any questions?
Oh, please, one at least.
I got one.
Okay.
So as I was thinking, so. I had a lot of discussion about the containers. Just question. Should we permit all containers in the city of Boardman and just not commercial? Cause you can get a 200 and put a 200 square foot and put it in your yard and there's no permit. And so my thought is do we want to track? Or do we not want to track? Or do we even?
So they will all require a permit. The way we've written this,
Only if it's occupiable.
Nope.
So everybody has to buy a permit? I
Yeah.
didn't catch that in
Yeah,
there. I thought it was only
no.
commercial.
So on commercial and industrial, commercial and the two industrial types of land, they would have to get a conditional use permit for occupiable space. But
Right,
for storage space, they still have to get a development review permit, whether it's on residential, commercial, or industrial land.
if it's over 200.
Yep.
Okay,
And where does it say that at?
cause we didn't see that today, we were trying to go high.
You guys were reading, I mean, thank you. So, yeah, you may not see it here, so an accessory use or structure goes through a development review permit process, and that language is not here in the code. It's in Article 4.1 in the code. So what it says is that if you're putting a structure up, it's gonna require, it's gonna require a development review permit if it's under a certain size, and if it's over a certain size, it might require site design review. So let's just say Sam's transport company decided that they wanted to use shipping containers for storage and they wanted to put multiples on their property. There would be there may be enough square footage that it would actually require a site design review, which that in itself could trigger a hearing in front of the planning commission, not based on the occupiable features, but based on the square footage and what the use is. So, yeah, there would still be a permitting process. So again, even if somebody buys a hickory shed to put on their residential property, there is a review for, are you meeting setbacks? You only avoid that if it's less than 40 square feet.
I guess my question is, where do we see that at? Cause if I just went to Home Depot and put one on my land, how am I supposed to know I need a permit for that?
So, pretty good code enforcement officer, and one day a truck with a hickory shed was going down Kincaid. And it was not this, current code enforcement officer, it was the previous one. I said, follow that hickory shed, and we haven't permitted one, and find out where it's going. And it went to a planning commissioner's house. And it was an interesting conversation to say, planning commission member, did you know that you needed a permit for that particular structure? We're trying to be really, have a lot of conversation about when you're doing fences and sheds, you need to be having a conversation with planning because there is a permitting process for that. So if it's less than 40 square feet, no. But if it's 40 square feet or larger, we're looking at things like setbacks, or, and again, some of that is fire. Is there enough separation? Well, what's the size of the structure you're proposing? Is there enough separation for fire response? Is it at least that 3 feet or the 10 feet, depending on the size and where you're putting it? So those are the things we're reviewing for. It's not an onerous review. It's a $50 permit fee. But yes, they would all have some level of permit review.
So I get it, so if I wasn't up here and I wasn't the city council, how would I know to do that? That's what I'm getting at, that's what I'm getting at, it's a Saturday and it goes by, you're not here, you don't see it going down the road, where I showed up in a pickup and built it myself. Right, you don't see it,
Right,
how am I supposed to know that I need a permit for that, especially if it doesn't say it in the code?
so it does say it in the development code. It says it in the, so if you were to look at chapter 4.1, that's the chapter that has the permit processes, no, 4.2, excuse me, 4.2, where it talks about development review and site design review. And remember also, we're doing a complete code update and we're working on that. And there are some of these things that I think historically have been unclear in the code. And we're working to make those clearer. Amanda's probably tired of our newsletter input, because we're just beating this particular one pretty heavily. You know, if you're putting in a fence, yes, come see the planning department, you do need a permit. If you're putting in a shed, yes, please come to the planning department because you need a shed. So if you're seeing that newsletter in the Gazette Times, if you're seeing that newsletter on the website, we've probably done that, 3 times this spring? So we're trying to get that word out there. Again, sometimes it's an enforcement issue. We have that conversation. The fee schedule actually allows us to charge double for those permits based on an enforcement. We've not pursued that. We're trying to keep it as an educational opportunity. Let's make sure folks are aware. We are gradually informing more contractors. There's a number contractors out there that build fences, and they're like, didn't know how to get a permit, yet have to get a permit, so we're seeing more compliance. Internally, we get a copy of the 811 dig, locates. Those are now being also shared with us in planning, and if it's for a fence, or some other kind of installation, we're assuring that a permit has been obtained, and if not, we're reaching out as soon as we know and say, before you install the fence, do come by and get a permit. So I understand what you're saying, Counselor Salata. I think we're doing, we're attempting to do a lot of outreach. I would encourage any of you, if your neighbor's putting in a shed, hey, did you get a permit? You know, go see the planning folks at City Hall, but, we're trying to get that word out there. We're trying to, educate the public. And again, it's not because we don't want those kinds of activities to happen. We just want to make sure you're not putting it on an easement. There are a few places in town where we still have water or wastewater lines in people's backyards. We also want to make sure that you're meeting your fire separation standards, and you're meeting setback standards where they're applicable.
You know, I don't actually see that where it says that you look, unless it's over 200 square.
She said it's in 4.2 or something.
I did go back to 4.2 and then everything's in this document and could not. Speak up.
So
I could not find the permit requirement.
we'll double check that, but, there's no building permit required up to, until you get over 200 square feet. But there is a development permit required.
For light industrial, for commercial, but I don't see that in residential.
I think,
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is I think that they're on something here. It's not in print
well,
that I can.
I think where I found stuff in the past was, I think it has a link, it goes to the state. And that's where, because we followed the state's guidelines, what took you to the state website, and it said, this is what we're following.
Yeah, and on the building.
This was
permit-
like 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, on the building permit side, that's correct.
And
on the-
it says the residential part of it, where if it's more than 200 square feet, you gotta get a permit.
Yeah,
So that's
and on the
what I
resident,
remember.
on the residential standard, it has been low, it's lower now, so on the residential side, it's for building permit. No, excuse me, for the commercial side, it's 100 square feet, commercial and industrial, the building permit, it gets triggered at 100 square feet.
Okay.
On the residential side, the building permit gets triggered at 200 square feet.
And that was my question. So on the residential side, do we want to know on the residential? Because we'll know on the commercial. But I guess the devil here is trying to ask, do we care about the residential, and do we want to go that route? Or do we want to just keep it the standard, just like we have on Hickory Shade?
So we're requiring people to come in and get a development permit for Hickory Shed. We're encouraging them to, and I think if
If
it's
it's
not
under
in
200.
there. Yeah, if it's not in there specifically, it will probably be amended to be in there when we do the full code update. So that'll be something I'll look at closely, because again, it's not because we don't want it to happen, but we want to make sure that the separation is correct and they're meeting the standards that we're asking them to meet. I'll confirm that, but yeah, we're asking for people to come in and go through that permit process at anything at 40 square feet or larger. So I'll see how we're doing that, because I know we're asking.
Well, I know you're asking, I don't mean to be stubborn, but, or we don't need to be stubborn, but how does somebody know that? So if they go onto the website and they look up the code for that, and they're, oh, I'm golden, I can do it. Next thing we know, we got a city official come and say, hey, you need a permit for this. I guess that's what
Right.
I'm just talking about.
So last meeting or the meeting before, we had that conversation about urban form. It's kind of the AI process where people can, we're gonna fund a project so that we can offer the opportunity for people to enter the property information and learn what our code says about that piece of property. one of the things that I'm hoping that will help us is we'll be able to do that and look and see just this thing. What does the code really say? Cause I can't tell you how many times I've read through it, but I still find things like, I don't remember reading that or how. So, there are holes, believe me, there are many. That's part of the reason we're doing all the planning work we're doing. So these are good questions. I think it's important that we have that conversation. Now, maybe we get to the point where there is a reduced permit fee for sheds. I mean, again, there could be things we could do that would make the process easier, maybe less expensive. It's currently a $50 permit fee for that. But again, I think there are some things we ask that are important. In particular, are you meeting the setbacks? Are you not putting it on a city water or sewer line? And have you met the fire separations? I mean, I think those are important things.
Well, when we were reading the code and the changes, I mean, we were pretty impressed with a lot of the things, and that was the only question I had. And then maybe I'm going down a rabbit hole we don't need to go down, and that was why I brought it up. If we wanna keep it at 200 and whatever, then we keep it there. That was the only thing. I didn't wanna spend like 15 minutes on it. I just was like, what, do we wanna go down that way or not? That was the only thing I had wanted.
It does say that you have to have a building permit for 200 square feet or beyond.
Yes.
Right.
And it has some implications written into it, that there's a site review based on what the setbacks have to be, et cetera. But there's nothing that plainly says you must get a site review before setting this on your property. And I think that's just the one line that's not there in the residential portion of the code.
Okay. So how about we go ahead and move into the other parts of the public hearing? I'll play a little bit in this, and when we come back to deliberation, I'll let you know if I have a thought. Is that fair?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want you to get the idea that I'm against this. That was the only thing. I mean,
No, it's a good question.
it was just on the residential side in a residential property.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
I will now call on those who wish to testify in favor of the proposed amendment.
Yeah.
I was wondering.
My name is Yvonne Navarro. I am at 113 Southwest Eagle Drive from Boardman. I am testifying in favor of shipping containers. As you all know, I have presented to you guys in the past. It's been a long time coming. I've been working really closely with Carla, with several different people on the planning commission to really find every single loophole. Just like this one, we're like, okay, well, what if people want to stack 5 of them on top? Or what if they want to do 5 next to each other? Like, we really have thought about every single little thing. And I'm like, okay, I promise, I'm like, we will start bare minimum 1, and we really are trying to think of every possible thing so that no one snowballs, and then next thing you know, we have a mall of shipping containers, which I really don't think is gonna be the case. I think we are planning to just start small, and Carla has been really great about, really digging deep and asking different people like, okay, well, what about this? What about that? And I know we brought up several, topics to her, like, okay, well, do we wanna require a fence, And okay, well, what if you don't want a fence in your residential area? Is that something that we're gonna require if you want a shipping container? Okay, first we had said we don't want it to be visible from the street. Okay, well, if it's not visible from the street, it needs to be directly behind your house then. So we really have tried to figure out what the best, middle ground is for both residential, commercial. But like she said, I think there is a lot of gaps in the, development code that, one, have not been enforced in the past, that we are trying to move towards, I'm like, cause I'm sure you guys have seen shipping containers throughout town, which maybe they've been there 20 years, maybe they've been there longer, but they were never brought up until now. So, I think she's done a great job at, putting all of this together. So again, thank you.
Thank you. I will now call on those who wish to oppose the proposed amendments. And does anyone wish to provide neutral testimony? Does the staff have anything to add in response to the testimony?
No, and no other correspondence was received. Well, okay, there was one odd email. Because there's a change to the residential zone. I got an email from, one of the advocates at the fair housing organization, Fair Housing Oregon, anyway, whatever it is. And I replied back and I said, we're not changing anything from a residential perspective. We're adding the opportunity to use a shipping container as a storage unit. And I never heard again. So, I'm not even, I didn't even add the comment. I mean, it never really emerged as an actual comment, so.
All right. Does a member of the city council have any further questions for staff or the audience? There are no further questions. I will close this public testimony portion of this hearing. The public testimony portion of the hearing is now closed. Is there any discussion by the city council?
Mayor, can I provide our suggestion to you and Ms. Councilor Sala's, question?
Okay.
We have a proposed solution.
It'll be our discussion.
Okay,
Put it in
let me know
the-
when you're ready to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so, the second page of the residential stuff, the red line, where we added number 10. That currently reads, accessory structures over 200 square feet will be required to obtain a building permit. Hopefully my grammar works here, I'm gonna give this a shot. Accessory structures over 40 square feet require a development review permit, and over 200 square feet will be required to obtain a building permit.
Do you wanna add
So-
that into the language?
Yeah, so I would add that, so where the residential standards are, see, I don't have the PDF page. 2.1.27.
Yes, yeah.
So on page 8 of this portion. So if you open up just this one document, page 8, on the number 10,
It is in blue, the 10.
correct,
Yeah.
blue number 10.
Yes, the blue number 10 with the red language, so accessory structures now inserting. Over 40 square feet require a development review permit, and over 200 square feet will be required to obtain a building permit.
Oh, great.
Mrs. Pettigrew, you said you looked like you had a comment before we signed.
Well, I agree with this whole conversation about how am I gonna know if I'm new to town? Or even if I'm old to town and decide to have a shed. And I'm gonna tell you, going to the website is not what I consider a notification. Because. So,
You mean user friendly, you're talking user friendly, right?
Right.
So I was gonna add something,
Oh, just a second.
sorry.
well, when you come in to get your utilities turned on. Don't we give you a sheet of paper of all the rules in Boardman?
No.
Really? Well, there, something we can start.
That's what I was saying. See, yeah,
Yeah, because I thought we used to say, garbage is picked up on Monday and get your garbage can out and, I don't know, there was a whole list of your utility bills and blah, blah, blah. And I was thinking that, maybe you could make a note on that piece of paper that you're telling the new citizens that, we have requirements for building, for permitting or something, and here's where you look, or I don't care what you say. Well, I do, I will. But anyway, yeah.
I will share in response to that recently I had a conversation with Woodhill Homes, they're the River Ridge developer. And they reached out and they said, so people who put in a fence have to get a permit, and we're like, yeah. So we kind of went through the conversation with Woodhill Homes, and they're like, okay, we need to add that to our new homeowner information. So, these conversations are happening. The more we work at being more consistent in what we do, I think the more questions, we're gonna raise more questions for a period of time, you know, and then eventually we'll figure out how to answer those questions in a better way. And hopefully we can reduce the number of questions that we, but then we'll have another change that'll happen and it'll just start another round of questions.
Well, you just see Boardman growing and
Yeah.
what used to be when there was 500 of us,
It doesn't work when there's 5,500 of you.
so.
I wonder if it could be something that, once it makes the development code, it gets put into practice, becomes applicable law. That we couldn't do the whole city of Boardman / news. And pump it out there with a link to the new, and just a blur. See new codes on building small structures 40 feet at square feet up, something like that. And then people who get that would know or be in possession of the information to look at. That's specifically, just be a little quick and dirty, go out
And what I
and
was-
get morning.
What I was gonna add was basically what she said was, you know, you think about like new home ownership, brand new, built up or whatever, they're probably getting that information, but. So I'll use my son as an example, he bought an existing home, you know, so unless I told him something, he knew nothing.
Right.
And so when he had a water leak out there and we discovered it and we needed to fix it, I was like, okay, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. But he wouldn't have had that information unless I told him, because he didn't know what to do, because it was already an existing home, and so. I like the idea of just having some kind of packet or whatever it is and just say, hey, these are, if you're gonna build anything, or if you're gonna add on anything or whatever. Come ask the city to make sure you don't need a permit first.
Yep.
And because I almost guarantee you, there's probably a lot of people who just don't know that.
Oh, there are, believe me, and
So, kind of getting off topic here, is there any other questions concerning the tipping change? Okay, having hearing none, we'll continue. Public comment, okay, we have some pre-arranged presentation. So due to our time constraints today, we're gonna limit pre-arranged presentations to 10 minutes. Everyone gets 10 minutes to present their, and discuss their topic. So we'll talk with, Mike Lees, you're first.
Good evening, City of Boardman.
Good evening,
How's everybody doing?
we're doing well.
This shouldn't take 10 minutes, but we'll see how it goes. Wanted to talk to you guys about the updates to the city public works standards. So to start off, I'll provide you guys with why we have city standards and the definition. So the public works standards implement rules of the development code. And the purpose of these is to provide a consistent policy under which certain physical aspects of public facility design and construction shall be implemented. Most of the elements contained in the public works standards are public works oriented and intended to be applied to both public improvements under city contract and public improvements under private contract designated herein. So what that really means is it provides a framework for developers, and it eases in developers submitting plans, and also eases the city with their review of developers' plans. What else? It provides a framework for developers to take a proposed development from design review through to city acceptance of the infrastructure. Another reason for having city standards is that they are in accordance with all the state regulatory agencies, including OHA, DEQ, ODOT, and so it really simplifies developers. Aside from that, it also allows the city to adopt standards such as street standards that can sort of guide how development occurs and what those developments look like. And so that's where your guys' input is requested, because you do have a say in what these things look like at the end of the day. These documents are getting updated to be consistent with all the other updates that are ongoing right now, including the city's TSP, the development code updates, et cetera, et cetera. And so with that, I'll just open it up to see if you guys have any comments.
Do you have any comments, questions? They are quiet and silent there, Mr. Lees.
Well, it's 138 pages or something, that's why. So,
195.
It's very interesting reading if you want to take a nap.
no, I looked at a lot of it because I heard the comment that the one we hadn't updated for a long time. And I thought maybe that we tried to do this a few years back, which could have been 15. But, so, no, it's great. I think this is really nice for developers and stuff, because it's clearly stated what you have to do.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments?
Madam Speaker, if I could.
Yes.
So, I think from a planning perspective, Mike alluded to it, but from a planning perspective, a lot of communities, and Boardman is in the same place. You have an adopted development code and you have an adopted transportation system plan. You may have other transportation planning documents as well that you've adopted. And then you have public works standards. And what you want to be applicable are your public works standards. But at the end of the day, the adoption process for public works standards is different than the adoption process for your development code and those TSPs. And what you end up is that's where your law is. And you could end up with conflict between your adopted documents and your public works standards. One of the things we're working really hard to do with this process is in the transportation system plan. And then when we update the development code, we're going to remove a lot of those standards from those documents and make sure they're housed in the public works standards. So that we have one standard in one place that will be applicable. So we're trying in this process to eliminate confusion and create consistency. And I think that's really, I think for me as your planning official, that's probably one of the most important things that's gonna come out of this, is we're gonna have one standard in one place when we're done with all of this work.
Thanks.
Any other thoughts or comments or questions?
I did have a question on the sidewalks portion. The curb and gutter. It looks like in there, we're kind of getting away from that rolled edge and doing more of the squared brick type. I don't know how to explain it. If you look at the picture, you can see it,
Right.
but,
Mike can probably speak to the specifics of that, but yes, we had added a number of different types of curb and gutter standards. And I think what we're trying to do is create a more specific standard. Mike, do you wanna speak to the curb and gutter standard?
So the curb and gutter it follows ODOT's standards for curb and gutter. And to be honest, the rolled curb or mountable curb that you see in a lot of the old developments in Boardman isn't really an industry standard anymore. I know Public Works have received a lot of complaints about the mountable curb in those old subdivisions. And then secondly, it also creates issues when people want to fill those in. So their cars' bumpers don't drag when they're entering and exiting their driveway. And the problems associated with that are related to stormwater and water moving the way it should. So we're moving towards a, ODOT standard curb and gutter and the ribbon curb, which you'll see in residential areas.
Perfect. That was my comment. I like the way it's moving, so thank you.
So with that, I do want to mention that we had a very robust meeting on Thursday. So what you're seeing right now, there's a few standards that are going to be modified, specifically associated with the road standards. So just know that you'll get a second opportunity to review these next month.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving right along, we'll go to Boardman Community Development Association.
Good evening, I'll make mine short and sweet. Troy Briggs with Boardman Community Development Association. I am here to request the council consider, having the North Main Street and West Columbia Avenue property that the city owns as a potential site for the pickleball courts. We are looking at a couple other locations, and I just kind of wanted you guys' approval on that. Once I have approval and have a list of properties, we're going to go after some grant funding requests. And at that time, then we will move into the development of the pickleball courts and what that looks like, and choose the location that best fits the needs of our pickleball court.
Anyone have any questions or comments?
Like the location, I mean, I think we found that there were some issues with that land as far as being able to use it for other things, so. The land that I think we're talking about is the old, community garden, so.
So is the city council going to be willing to look at some other site?
Is there any of those sites you guys are thinking that could possibly house the city on the pickleball court?
City park, makes sense.
It does. I'll just let you know through my travels and, investigating further in the pickleball court. It's a very annoying noise that happens on a consistent basis. And if we're looking to build an 8-court, pickleball court, that is a tournament style. So we house host tournaments here for bringing economic development and tourism stuff into our community. That is really going to be a very noisy sport to have in a housing area. A lot of areas that do have it, they limit them from 9 AM to like 4 PM. They've been moved out of a lot of resort areas down in Arizona and Nevada due to the constant noise of the all day long. So I just bring that to your point, your awareness, because that is just not a prime location for that. So we're trying to find a location that's kind of out in the more of the city location, city center, business area, where it's not gonna be affecting homes and house residential areas.
Oh, and that place is already pretty noisy with just knowing myself that the train goes by about 35 times a day and shakes your house and all that stuff. And so unless you're used to it, that's not a bad location for noise, in my opinion.
It also puts it down near the recreation spots, near the marina,
Near
it's
the school.
walkable. It's accessible through multiple different routes of sidewalks, streets. It's kind of in a key location and kind of a location that really has not a lot of value. As in residential or commercial use.
Any other questions? Comments?
I would assume that it's built stands of some kind
Oh,
as
yeah,
well,
yeah,
and probably a fence or some kind of other fence on that backside.
yeah, I don't know if you guys have been able to go to the Hermiston pickleball courts. That's the layout and the design kind of concept that we're gonna be building off of, is that design style. Where the courts have been individualized fenced, where when you don't have to walk through somebody else's court to get to your other court, because a lot of times they stick
they stick 2 to 3 courts in one chain link area. We'd really divide ours up, build it to where fences block wind, wind has a lot of, effect on the pickleball court. And so, we're just gonna utilize their design. And we're also, I've been speaking with that crew that built that pickleball court, and they are more than willing to come and give us their pros and cons and goods and bads of building there, so.
I agree, where else have you guys been looking? Potential.
Potential is maybe on some of the cemetery district land is one, the city property. We're just trying to find property where it's affordable and be able to build, because this is a pretty good sized build project, cost expensive. They're kind of limited really, without waiting to build this in 5 years or so down the road, when we maybe can expand into the park. I don't know what y'all named it yet, but the one down there on the King Gate, down there. There's a lot of areas where it could be in 5 years, but this is something that I feel like our community has been asking for. It's been on the BCDA's list of projects, probably 5 years, and it's one that we really need to get tapped off. We had the funding for it. It transitioned to the park wasn't able to do it because they couldn't get the Corps of Engineers. So the funds had to go back to McCurd. Now we're gonna go back to McCurd and request them from BCDA. And so we're just really, it's a project the community needs. Oregon's having great, success with theirs, and we just wanna continue offering this support.
Cemetery district has a lot of land, don't they?
Yeah, but it has a lot of uses on it too for industrial, light
That's the other
industrial.
thing, I mean, if we get rid of, we're getting limited for our land as far as the city. So,
Yeah,
not to say that that's a bad piece, but what else is gonna go there, I mean, we can always say it's gonna be industrial, but
so that's why we were kind of looking into that city property
I
there.
think it's definitely an option.
Because it's really isn't a buildable area for anything besides those sorts of. Plus, it's a high, wide, and heavy corridor, so when you come out of there, there's a lot of limited space. We gotta have space, a parking lot and different stuff like that.
I was gonna say, I'm in favor of it. I know that sometimes when you're doing, grant writing a request, it helps to have that in mind already, to be able to say, here's what we would be able to use. But I know that you are looking at other options, so if something else does come up that's better, obviously you would do that. But I think in terms of getting started to be able to request that funding, I'm in favor of it being used for that.
Mayor Keeper.
Yes,
So in the parks master planning process, just as 2 things I would share. Pickleball was identified. It will show up in kind of the needed things without a home in the current version of the parks master plan. So there's a clearly identified community desire and need. But in the planning process, we didn't have a place to put it today, predominantly because of the issues with the park. The water park, the marina park. I think the other thing I would add, again, Counselor Salata, and just you and I are talking a lot tonight. The city park, the PAC for the Parks Master Plan really kind of has a focus for how they see city park. Maybe evolving in its next reiteration with the splash pad. Kind of an expanded play structure that would be more oriented to a smaller child's range. I mean, not a small child, but maybe like under the age of 10. Again, the ball fields that are down there would be the T-ball fields, the smaller soccer field. So I think there's a sense of kind of this age appropriate piece at that park, and I don't know how pickleball fits in that. So again, I just want to share with you kind of, we don't have that draft plan yet, but those are the things that are coming out that I think could help inform how you think about the request from the BCDA. Thank you.
And parking is another issue. I mean, if you do host a tournament, it's gonna require a lot of parking. And city park area doesn't have a whole lot of parking at the moment, besides street parking inside in front of residential.
any other questions? Thoughts? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Feldman,
Sorry, are you so in favor? Yes, no, like, you gotta forward.
Oh, it's at the
Oh,
end.
at the end, okay.
Yeah.
Copy. Missed that.
All right, first of all, thank you for letting me be here. Thank you for letting me speak. Jonathan Coleman, from Riverside High School, class of 1994. This was about me. We owned property here since 1988. So most people know being here. Did you guys have a chance to see that document that I sent over email? Did you guys get it? Okay, great. I just want to take a different approach. Speaking a little, please read the documents, but I just want to show you just a little quick story. Once I had a car, wasn't anything flashy, but it was in excellent condition, reliable, well-maintained, meaningful to my family. We used it for a purpose it was intended, and we took great pride in keeping it that way and using it the way that we wanted to use it. Then someone came along, offered to make it even better. We did agree on the condition that we work together and follow the same standards and rules that everyone else had to follow. I never gave permission for them to take it outright, and yet they did, choosing not to follow the very code that was imposed on others. When the car was returned, it was no longer the same. It was dented, damaged, didn't run like it used to. Ironically, the original plan that I had to work with them now seems to have been a better approach all along. But instead of recognizing that, the same people want to reshape it again for their own agenda. Okay, that's fine. Either way, let's make it work. They still benefit from the car, they still benefit from what the car once was, using it when it suits them, but they take no responsibility on the harm that it has caused. And now they want to buy it, but at a discount, citing that the condition that they themselves created. So I ask you, what would you guys do in this situation? I really like the conversation. I really like, Tori said about the pickleball thing. Makes perfect sense. I've asked that over the last 7 years, gotten up here many times trying to speak about this. I presented 2 paths forwards. One would allow me to move on, the other one will allow us to work together and restore what has been broken. I still believe that's possible. Not just for my own sake, but for the good of Boardman and the citizens who deserve to enjoy the vision we intend from the start. I love that up there, that sign. That's what I truly envisioned. I would like for this going forward to make that happen. I'm happy either way, but let's do something instead of just throwing it off, because it does affect. Karen, you had a, example of a 2 exit town in Boardman and Richard Rockwell. All right, we've discussed that before. This is for betterment for Boardman. Let's make Boardman better, okay? I'm sorry if I come off confrontational. I will apologize profusely for coming off confrontational. But I think you can see, if I show you the numbers, why it has come off conversational. And all I've asked is for transparency. Do you guys really feel like I've gotten transparency here? Your budget in 2019 was $21 million. This year, it's $90 million. Do you guys know where that $90 million came from? I do. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman. Thank you. And report only, I guess that's just in the packet.
Can I say something about that though? The report, when you look at it, I don't know, maybe it was just a clerical error or it says June 2025 on it instead of July 2025, at least on the online version. It did. So I just want to make sure that was,
So you guys are usually a month behind.
okay,
I
and that-
don't get,
that's the only reason I'm asking.
cause I usually don't get them done until
Until
this
the
week.
following.
And I just happen to be, cause I'm out this week and
Mhm.
next week, I got them done a week early.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that it was
I'm assuming it's the June
just a
one.
mistake or whatever.
Yeah, you'll get the July one next month.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's it.
Any questions or comments about the BCDA report?
Other issue turned regular.
Great. Great. Actually, I cannot report on that. Heather can. It was-
Other than the
I
wind,
know.
the first day?
So they had to cancel the first day.
Yeah.
But then they have some kind of plan in place if that happens, and they made it work and everybody was happy. I saw a lot of the boaters throughout the weekend and
I
they seemed happy, they
I
liked
can
it.
tell you the Boardman Park and Rec had to call the Oregon Marine Board and let them know that our docks are abundantly full due to the tournament number of turnout that we had, to advise other fishermen that were coming to not utilize our marina because it was full.
We had 65 boats.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it was
110
full.
anglers
Yeah.
that participated in this tournament, and then the pro is coming up, August 24th, or 22nd, 23rd, and 24th.
Yeah.
What's exciting is how this is like in the last 5-6 years, it's really taken off.
And this one here.
This is only the second year for
This is their
them.
second-
Well, I mean, of the 5 years of the tournaments, I mean,
Yeah.
gradually it's been building up and it's just exciting that this is really starting to like be a good place and a good thing.
Yeah, and this tournament here is sponsored by Bass Angler Magazine, so if you follow Bass Angler Magazine, it's actually showcased in their magazine. It's televised across major networks and stuff like that, so it has a lot of reach. And they have done a great job of sharing our community just outside of the marina, like our community itself. And really spotlighting what we have to offer coming here to Boardman Port. It's one of the best bass fishing areas on top of every other kind of fishing. It's
The
one of,
largest bass was 7.74 pounds.
Yeah.
Fishing's a pretty big deal. I coached a kid that he happened to transfer to somewhere in Arkansas and they had a NCAA bass fishing team and he just joined it because he could. There's a lot of excitement about it, so it was kind of cool.
One of the most exciting things that I'd like to point out was the awarding of $100,000 scholarship to a high school co-angler to actually go to a college that's just for anglers in Redding, California. $100,000.
Super cool. Nice. All right, go to action items. Which is ordinance 6-2025, Boardman Municipal Code Title 6, Animal Control. And the discussion to add chickens.
I move to approve the reading by title only of ordinance 6-2025 and ordinance amending the Boardman Municipal Code Title 6 Animal Control.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Having here none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, we'll do a roll call. Let's do it the roll call for ayes,
Okay. Profit?
Yes.
or we'll just do a roll call. We'll just do a roll call of everybody.
I'm going to. That's what I'm doing.
Round check.
Counselor Pettigrew? Counselor Salata?
Yes.
Counselor Cuevas?
Yes.
Counselor Baumgartner?
Yes.
Counselor Rockwell?
No.
Mayor Kiefer?
Yes,
Okay, so we have 2 noes and 5 yeses.
action items. Resolution 21-2025 contingency transfer. Oh, we gotta do step 3.
Step 2 and 3, step 2 and 3.
Yep, let's skip to step, 2 steps, okay. Go ahead, Mr. Brandon.
Thank you. Ordinance 6-2025. An ordinance amending the Boardman Municipal Code Title 6 Animal Control.
So we do step 3.
I move to adopt ordinance 6-2025 and ordinance amending the Boardman Municipal Code Title 6 Animal Control.
Second time.
I got a motion and a second, is there any discussion? We'll do a roll call, please.
Counselor Profit?
Yes.
Counselor Pettigrew?
No.
Counselor Salata?
Yes.
Counselor Cuevas?
Yes.
Counselor Baumgartner?
Yes.
Counselor Rockwell?
No.
Or Mayor Keeper.
Yes. All right, so we'll move on to resolutions. Resolution 21-2025 contingency transfer.
Yes, thank you. We received our invoice from CIS, who insures, all of our property and assets. They now do a physical, inspection every 2 to 3 years and update the values on the big ticket items on our assets. And so, we had that done just this last year, which fed into the premium for this year. Plus, we had our addition of our city hall, the building department, some new vehicles. And so kind of everything combined, that put us over budget. And then what we have in our CIP and in our budget to purchase this year, that would also require to be insured. We figure, hey, let's put it all together, and that's what this encompasses. It's the amount that the premium currently is over, plus what we anticipate as we, add assets, what the additional insurance premium will be at that point.
So are you, what are you saying?
Our insurance bill came in more than what I budgeted,
How much more?
about 47,000 more.
Okay, is that on these figures that I'm looking at?
If you do the math, but
Okay.
it also shows that, we have in our budget some additional assets that we're gonna purchase throughout the year, and when we do purchase them, we're gonna have to get them insured.
Sure.
And that's gonna increase the premium even more, so that's also addressed in here.
And so this figure here that says 181,000,
That is the total invoice amount currently.
and you need to add more to that
No, that's what we need to pay CIS right now.
for the new building and proposed whatever, the water building and all that.
Yep, adding the water building, yep.
Okay,
But you're not changing that line by 181,000.
No, that is
You're
what the
changing it.
current invoice is that we
Right.
received from CIS.
So you're just doing a contingency for the difference plus anticipated costs
Yep,
for
so-
additional insurance.
Right, so our difference is with the anticipated cost being added, 65,500.
I move to approve resolution 21-2025, a resolution to decrease contingency and to increase 2025-26 expenditures for materials and services.
I got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, resolution 22-2025, escrow account, Premier excavation.
This one's gonna be a lot easier because, I was just informed by Anderson Perry that this is not needed. Premier Excavation has decided to take out a bond instead of us holding retainage, so we no longer need this.
Okay, good.
Nice.
All right, we'll go to action item, other business, pickleball court decision.
Move to allow the Boardman Community Development Association to use, I believe, the property in question. Do we need to list
Columbia,
that?
Maine.
Columbia and Maine. Property as the potential location for a pickleball court if grant funding is received, contingent on design, operation agreement, and final council approval.
I second that.
A motion is second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Aye.
Thanks, Mayor.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, you're good to go.
Thank you.
Good luck to you. City manager performance evaluation process.
I move to approve the city manager performance evaluation process and all associated items.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. Is there any more discussion about that? Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're at the part where we have other public comment. Is there anybody that wishes to provide public comment?
Mayor Keeper,
We did have Noah Reed's online request to make public comments.
All right, so, I will read my little comment here. Anyone may speak on any topic other than a matter in litigation, a quasi judicial land use matter, or a matter scheduled for public hearing at some future date. The mayor is going to limit comments to 3 minutes per person, for a total of 30 minutes total for people who wish to speak. And I appreciate your comments and, it's gonna be Noah, you said?
Noah.
Noah, you have the floor.
He typed out his response.
Did he?
Yeah.
He said it. I didn't see what he said.
I couldn't read it all fast enough.
So it has to do with,
Development, was that it?
well, like putting a
Connecting
road
Second
from
Street.
Boardman Avenue
To Second
to
Street.
connect to Second Street that connects to Marshall Loop.
Correct. Oh, that was the fellow who came and talked about
Mhm.
that previously.
Gotcha.
Yes. But I know what spot's looking, because it's right by the right behind the bus barn area.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Yeah, that's affirmative.
We can hear you.
Yeah, so sorry. So yeah, I was wondering, as a suggestion for a future project, if the city council have ever considered connecting Second Street to Boardman Northeast near the bus barn, because according to Google, Second Street resumes back near the Boardman Trail Apartments on Boardman Avenue, and I was thinking if we can go ahead and reconnect that along with Boardman Northeast, we can create a four-way intersection, not only lessening up traffic along near Portviews Road, but also adds an alternate bus route and emergency department traveling through. I have like two AI mock-ups via Google Image to like give a rough representative of what it would look like. I know I posted it on the Boardman community page, and I'm surely not the only one that has ever thought, this might be a good idea since that area of land is still barren at the moment. And by also providing that new road connection, we can also improvise new structural housing layout along that street, if ever considered for residential living.
So, does anybody address this? Because, or do you want to, because
I can. I would encourage the commenter to come to the joint city-county work session that is scheduled for Tuesday, August 26th. At 5:30 at the Port of Morrow. There will be an opportunity that evening for, public comment. And that would be public comment to the TSP, and the projects that are incorporated therein. Hopefully that TSP will be posted draft about a week prior to that joint work session, and you would also be able to then review that draft TSP. I believe this is identified as a potential project in the draft TSP. I'm not called out in a full-throated project, but identified as a necessary connection.
okay,
Hmm.
then
Okay.
I have a comment then, I guess. The reason that Second Street hasn't been put in, or Avenue, whatever your Boardman Avenue hasn't been extended, is because normally the developer puts in the streets. And the developer has not put in that street, and it has probably held people from purchasing that property because they don't see that they could gain enough rent or whatever to put in Boardman Avenue. So I think that's the crux of the issue here is if the city wants to pay to have Boardman Avenue extended, or if we want to continue to wait for the developer to do it, because that's the developer, that's part of developing is putting in you pay for the streets and the water and the sewer and stuff. But not saying that we can't waive that.
Karen, just throwing that out there. So He's talking about Second Street coming down and connecting to Boardman,
From
not
Marshall.
Boardman
Yeah.
extending out.
Okay, well, I'm talking about Second Street. I shouldn't have looked up there
Sorry,
because Second would come
yeah, it would come down here and connect into Boardman.
and see, we've always waited for that, the man that owns that property.
That's what my thought was, that somebody else owns it, the city doesn't own it, so they can't just go put a
No,
road wherever they want there.
and it would allow,
It's already been discussed, it's in the,
That's what I was gonna ask, if it's in our,
it's listed as a potential project.
Isn't there already an easement there for that road also?
well, it's already like cut, like, there used to be like a little playground right there. I lived on Marshall Loop, and so it was a little playground and stuff, and then it's just cut off. And so,
Well, thank you, Noah. Make sure if you have any comments or concerns, you could attend that meeting if you can find it. If you have problems finding that meeting where it's gonna be in the time, definitely contact City Hall and they'll help you find that.
All right, that sounds good. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, you bet. All right, we'll go to reports. Police report.
So, everybody should have got a copy of the, month-end report. We haven't verbally spoke about the report in a couple of months, so if you can, focus on the numbers, we're steadily increasing in our call volume and our calls for students. And mind you, this is being shorthanded 2 volumes. So I'm down 2 officers, so we're still handling, larger, in fact, the 600 calls for service is an all-time record for a foreman period. We've never had that many calls in 1 month. So we're staying busy. We're still doing recruitment process. We did a conditional offer for a recruit who started with us several weeks ago. Is scheduled to go to the academy in August, 28th, I believe. Again, remind everybody that when we do that, it's about a year process before they're actually in a car by themselves doing the job. So we're probably gonna lose an officer to Hermiston PD. They've been recruiting heavily from other agencies, and we're not immune to that. And so we do have an officer that has told me that he has interest in going there. We'll see how that goes, but so we'll be down another officer.
Is that another one on top of what was already going? Or
This would be 3, won't it?
This will be this will be 2.
so it's the same one.
Yeah, the state requires that they pay back a percentage of the training fees that are associated and is prorated. So if he would have went before August 28th, they would have had to pay us back 66% of his cost for training. They didn't want to pay that much, so they're gonna wait until after the 28th and then pay 33% of the cost of training. So and we will try to recoup those costs, but it's still nowhere close to what we need to do, especially the amount of time it takes to train an officer and get them up to par, get them familiar with the area. And it's really hard to be that agency that's a training agency, so.
We just make it open carry and we just deal with ourselves.
So, not that I would recommend that, so.
No, absolutely not.
I would, we're working hard to try to, keep our officers here. We won't hire just to hire, right? That's not the role that I believe in. We want to have good fit for our community, so we'll take the time to make sure we get good hires. Aside from that, I think you're all aware, we had a major, catastrophe happening in our community. 5 structures got destroyed along with, business. That case is still ongoing. It appears that the fire that, damaged the residences and the, food pantry was caused by an accidental, equipment failure. But
some of the others are still under suspicious review. And we have, working with local law enforcement, state fire marshal and local fire marshal to try to determine, if we can determine the cause. Unfortunately, some of the evidence got destroyed, having to put out the fires. So we want to hold those accountable that would stoop to that level. Our community, I have to tell you, is very resilient. They stepped up when people were in need. Our first responders were there. We had first responders respond from all over Eastern Oregon. Law enforcement, fire, EMS were all here from different agencies. We had businesses from Hermiston and other communities bring water, ice, you know, it was just a really strong outpouring of support. So this is why we live where we do. We're very resilient. We're gonna come back from this. So, any questions? Thank you for your support.
Building department report.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we're just clicking along, nothing really up or down. In the process of ever improving, Jose and I both are getting trained for additional certifications. Jose is training for residential plumbing inspector, and I'll be training for commercial electrical inspector. The plan is, I would like to move forward and get an a commercial full electrical inspector and start moving that direction. But that'll take time. That'll take a couple of years. Everything is pretty standard. Anybody have any questions?
Anyone have any questions?
I probably have asked this before, Glenn, but for clarification, Morrow County 97818 and Boardman are two separate sets of numbers. It's not like Boardman is subsumed under the 97818.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
That's a 509 permit process in the last year just for Boardman and 97818.
That's where things are happening. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, Glenn.
Yep, thank you, guys.
Planning official report, or actually, yeah. Public works.
Skipped over, can't skip.
You can skip over that.
Yeah.
I tried, but they wouldn't let me.
Okay, so you guys have your report. I will reiterate what Chief said about the fire. It's amazing to see how everybody contributed. I was also happy and proud of the residents of Boardman for passing the water bond, because without that water bond, this fire could have been way worse. We had all the water we needed to fight the fire, and then some. So just know that passing that bond was very important. Fruits of that. So, any questions?
I appreciate you mentioning that, because I think it's really important that the citizens of Boardman understand that one of the benefits of passing that bond issue really paid off that day when the wind's blowing so hard, and we had plenty of water and plenty of pumping capacity to do that. And we just need to, the citizens just need to know how lucky they are to live in Boardman. That, you know, like you say, we step up when there's an emergency, and we come prepared, we have great equipment to take care of emergencies. So, yeah, this, and this proved for sure what working together, making a nice community pays off for you.
Well, I would say that had this happened 6 years ago.
Yeah.
It probably wouldn't have been this. Yeah, it'd have been a totally different story, because we didn't have a redundant loop. We didn't have that backup supply, we didn't have those big lines. And working with former fire chief, that was one of his concerns over the years, that we just didn't have the capacity for this type of event. I'm sure the fire guys could tell you, just the one truck alone, how many gallons per minute was going through that truck. And that was just one truck. It's a lot of water. I kept calling Judy, "Well, are you sure we're good on water?" To where he got emotional, like, we're good. So,
We would have tapped out on the previous system
oh, easy.
well before the fire stuff.
Yeah, so I think we just need to make sure that the community understands that how wonderful it was that everybody came to put out the fire and do everything, but in the background, they had water to do the job with too, so. And as you're paying your taxes in November, pat yourself on the back.
Is it appropriate to ask, on a different topic, do we expect any delays with this road? Or, yeah,
No, the road is on, no, and we can talk.
Yeah.
Yep,
no, I'm just asking, that's all.
we're on task, yep.
And then how about, sorry,
Should see paved roads by the end of August.
and then, the dog park and BPA's.
So the big thing happened today, I don't know if you were aware, but, Utah Electric finally got their power pulled down, so that project can move forward. So
Good.
that was kind of what was holding that up. But that's out of the way now, we've seen the path is in.
Yep.
That'll
We
get
can see
paved,
that.
that'll get paved along with the rest of the stuff, yeah, moving right along.
So I tried to look up some BPA green space, because people will ask, and I didn't really know what it looks like, so do we know what? Are they planting grass there, or are we planting grass there, and that's that?
We're gonna hydro seed.
Hydro seed, and then that'll be that? So we'll have a water system of some kind?
Yeah, irrigation.
Okay,
From the sky.
from the sky.
Flood
yeah.
irrigation.
Cause I mean, people ask
That's
all the
not
time, and so,
Regular. Not that I put on as well.
thank you.
Won't do a water drop every month.
Helicopter.
Any other questions? Okay, planning department.
So-
We haven't listened to you long enough.
I know, I can just say,
Just teasing.
I submitted the report, any questions, other than we're really busy?
Yes, you are.
TSP, joint city county workshop, the EOA, the PAC, the EOA PAC, so the draft BLI, and draft economic opportunities analysis at the last meeting, so that will be coming to work session, I think fairly soon. I'll be working with Brendan Buckley on scheduling that. Housing needs analysis, the new name for that is housing capacity analysis. The state has published something that we can borrow from to write a scope, so we should be able to kick that project off by the end of the calendar year or first thing next year. Parks Master Plan, we added a PAC meeting, it was gonna be September 4th, that's been delayed 2 weeks, so we would be sending out an email to the PAC committee members to confirm a date and time. But we're rapidly moving to a draft Park Master Plan, so that'll be coming to you for adoption probably in the October, November timeframe. The Development Code and Comprehensive Plan, we will have a booth at the end of summer celebration. The focus will be on the comprehensive plan and some kind of strategic what do you think about how Boardman will grow process. Boardman Municipal Code, we keep going on that. The Tower Road, I kind of changed up what I shared with you about Tower Road. They are doing an IAMP out at Tower Road, it's a county and an ODOT project. We've been participating in that to some level, and that's moving along. Unrelated to that, they are doing a deck replacement out there on Tower Road next summer. So next summer, we will see reroute traffic, that's still a year out, but it will be impactful when that happens. I'm kind of glad it's not happening this summer with everything else we got going on. Thank you, I think, for passing the chicken ordinance. That will shift how we do things in the code and animal control program. Will be, Norm and I will be meeting tomorrow and strategizing how we get the things that are not in compliance now that we actually have an ordinance. So,
Well, Hermiston has a chicken coop, or they have roosters and they don't get rid of their roosters, so they just sit there and make their noise all day.
yeah.
Same here, I think.
So what I will say is this year that we've invested into a lot of planning work has been a lot of fun. Been a little nerve wracking at times. I've learned a lot. I've stretched my abilities, I think. But in the end, I think it's gonna result in some really good, just better guidance all the way around for how Boardman will grow over the next 20 years. What we're clearly seeing is that there's been huge growth that has happened, and the opportunity for additional growth is right there. So in doing the work that you've done relative to the five white sheets in front of you there, those strategic plans, we are working to align to those, and I think we're getting there. I think we're achieving that. So, thank you.
Thanks, Carla. I might give you a bad time, but you're always in the limelight. And that just shows how busy you are, so appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Parks Committee, Parks Master Plan, the park naming.
Carla gets to talk again.
No, actually, I will too. I'll introduce Norma. Norma is not here tonight as the code enforcement, code compliance officer. She's here as a member of the Parks Master Plan PAC. And she's gonna share a little bit about a conversation, that we had at our last PAC meeting relative to park namings. Norma, I'll let you share, and I'm happy to back you up, whatever.
Yes, please. So we had a total of 44 names, name submissions for the parks. I'm gonna start with the City Hall Park, which is this one out here. We kind of all just picked the Tatone Park. It's named for nearby Tatone Street and the Tatone family, who were instrumental in shaping the community in the 60s and 70s. So we kind of just went with that one for that. The Hillview Park, we had a few names and we narrowed it down to 2 of them. One of them is Parque Cultural, which is revised from somebody who had requested a Parque Puente Cultural. We just shortened it up to Parque Cultural. And the PAC member supported the name based on its explanation, meant to reflect the connection and mutual respect we should have for our borders. And the other one was the Ryan Neal Memorial Park, Parque Cultural. So Ryan Neal Memorial Parque Cultural. That one was, it's the blends 2 suggested names. So it adds what was the first one, which is the Parque Cultural, and adds Ryan Neal to that. And the park block, which is go back, other side. Oh, we had another name on there. I thought I said that, the Hillview Park, or the sports complex. So that was the Hillview Park, Parque Cultural, or Ryan Neal Memorial Parque Cultural. So then the next one is the park block BPA easement over here. We just decided to do, name it Heritage Park Block, since that's where our heritage, park or heritage trail will go through. The River Ridge subdivision park, 3 or 4 total. There was 1, 2, 4 of them. So, the first one was the Bladen Park. It was to honor Steve G. Bladen, a community nominated individual whose deceased recognized as the first permanent settler in Boardman in 1915, following Sam Boardman's original homesteading. The next one is Parque Los Niños, modified from its submission of
Parque de los Niños, we just took, they out, so Parque de los Niños. Originally submitted in Spanish and the name meaning Children's Park. And then, to go with the whole, subdivision area of naming the parks, Pájaro Azul Park, which means Bluebird Park in Spanish. And again, the name aligns with the bird themed street names in that neighborhood. Another bird name, is the Meadowlark Park, which is named after the Oregon state bird. And this name was supported for its local symbolism, especially given the bird themed streets names in that neighborhood.
The only one I didn't like was the word blocks on Heritage Park. Why does it have to be blocked? I mean, I could live with Heritage Park, but I get why, what the thought is, but that's just me.
Yeah, and
I like Heritage Park, I mean, but blocks added on to the end was a little odd to me.
The thinking about the blocks is that it will develop in blocks, but I get that too. You do stumble over it. Becomes a bit of a stumbling,
Yeah.
a stumbling word. Yes.
Because the concept would be all along BPA, like Laurel Lane.
Oh, we're gonna go to Heritage Park, block so-and-so, I mean, I won't be facetious, but
If you name the block, that might matter, but otherwise.
but anyway, I appreciate the work going on, I didn't think Meadowlark Park was wordy. I didn't think, I don't
I
have
think
that.
they're really close.
The old, I really like the idea of, the Spanish part, the names for the Spanish parks. I like that. The only thing, and that just might be because I'm white, is trying to tell somebody where they're gonna go and not say it correctly.
That was a big discussion.
And so, but I
Just
mean,
getting it typed into Google, not everyone knows how to spell it in the Spanish version.
but I thought it was super cool
Yes.
because we have a highly Hispanic culture here.
It sounded really cool, I just know I could never say it.
I got a lot of.
And it had to practice, which we,
Yeah.
I mean,
And there's us who don't speak Spanish, say it one way, and then
Yeah,
others say it.
you're gonna go to the PA park.
so with Parque Los Niños, I can say it in English, Parque Los Niños.
Yeah, Parques
Yeah.
Los Niños. I could probably say that one.
Yeah.
You know, I could probably say the others too if I practice, so
Yeah.
either that or just butcher it like they, you know. But I like the concepts of it, I was. No, I won't say that. Yeah, well, so why didn't River Ridge, like, just come up with their own park names, in their own,
I really
their
think
own
that the people-
HOAs?
I think the people that lived there were the ones that were actually submitting those. I'm not sure because we didn't get addresses or anything, but I really believe that it was the people that lived in that area that were submitting those names.
Yeah, the submittals were very diverse, but I think we had some submittals from those neighborhoods.
So where did the blatant, I mean, I don't know.
I'd have to go back and look at the original source material, but yeah, that was, there were, all of these park names were community submissions, so. That one kind of, it was interesting, because that one kind of rose to the top, everyone went, huh. It was kind of an aha moment, we all know who Sam Boardman is, but. Yeah,
So do we have a Sam Boardman Park at all?
Not anymore.
That, no, I know, that's what I'm saying.
On the Oregon.
Yeah, it's on the Oregon coast, north of Brookings, but I found it interesting that we don't have a Sam Boardman Park.
That's cool.
We veered away from it just for that reason, cause
Yeah.
when you Google San Bernardino Park, it takes you all
All the
across
way
the
to
state
the
of
other one.
Oregon, and you're never gonna be in where you are.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of other things that reflect San Bernardino in our communities.
so we're hoping to bring this back to you guys next month in a resolution, so that we can kind of keep moving forward with some of the work we're doing around parks. So if I'm hearing you all correctly, if we just take blocks off Heritage Park, that one seems to fit.
Well, that was just,
That was just.
that was just
I
me.
I have The rest.
I didn't like.
I was waiting
blocks
for him to
either.
be done.
I'm done.
Okay,
She has the
thank
floor.
you. So when I hear, like, I understand sometimes the wanting to name after certain people, the parks, but sometimes when we do that, it feels a little bit like I'm going, like, if I'm going there, it's gonna be like, I see a tribute to that person. Not just the name, but like I see a tribute of some sort. I don't know. Yeah. Something. And I'm not sure that that was the intention. So it's just the thought that I had, and along those same lines, I think that one of the things that we're missing in this community a little bit is the art that can be found in other communities. You know, just art structures, or even just having somebody that's artistic make the sign, right? Like the name of the sign. And I know in other cities they've done you know, some of the competitions of, you know, people submitting their designs, and I thought that was fun, that was interesting, and then, you know, people, the city council voted and went from there. But I just thought that would be interesting, so I was trying to envision what that would look like with some of these, and honestly, like, the ones that would be the easiest would be the ones that would be like the Parque de los Niños, or the Bluebird, right, the Pájaro Azul. It would just be a lot easier, the Meadowlark, to do something with that than when it's named after a person. But that was my thoughts. And then the other thing is just, I know that, specifically with River Ridge, there has been a lot of talk about wanting to have more of the play structures for kids and things like that. But I also think that, having, you know, making sure to include trees so that there is shade, because if not, then people don't want to use them because they become too hot, or so. Those were my thoughts.
See, I had a comment, thought about that too. Why isn't the HOA putting in structures for them? There are
So
parks.
there are parks.
They are our park. We own their land.
Yes.
The minimum requirement for
Yep.
a park is just grass. That's it.
And
I didn't realize they
So-
were our city property, right? Okay.
Looks like she has a comment back there.
So the previous process for those subdivision approvals for both Tatone, or, excuse me, the other one, Tuscany and River Ridge, was that these parks were required. Why it was a different approval process for Tuscany than River Ridge, I don't know, I wasn't here. Tuscany's park is a private park, and it is managed by their HOA. The River Ridge approval required the dedication of four parks, and the dedication was to the city. So we will own 4 parks. Now, we have had an initial conversation with them to potentially combine the last 2 parks into a single park, so it's a little bit bigger park. That is a request that has come out of the Public Advisory Committee for the Parks Master Plan. I think some of your questions, Counselor Cuevas, that you were just asking, you will begin to see some really good stuff come out of the draft plan when the Parks Master Plan gets done. There are some follow-on projects that are identified. We've talked about signage for parks. One of the things is, if something were to happen right now at one of the River Ridge parks,
Yeah, how do you get somebody there?
how do you get a responder to that park? So, naming a park helps in that respect, so that people know what the park is and where it's at. Signing the park with what that name is, so this is the very, very, very beginning of a whole lot of work that needs to happen. About once we decide a name, then how do we monitor that? How do we, you know, what's the iconography that happens around not just a park, but the parks? And so that we begin to create that, so it becomes a system, not just, oh, we have a park over there that we've never done anything with.
And that's kind of the first step, like, once the park master plan is adopted, then we go into designing, and obviously we won't do them all at once, but it's picking, okay, well, what do we wanna do first, and.
Yeah, we have some money that is in this year's budget, you know, come later this fall or next spring, there'll be some trees that get planted, hopefully, there'll be a few benches and maybe a sidewalk meandering through one or two of those parks. It won't be a lot this year, but there'll be more next year, because we'll have a plan in place and we'll be able to deploy the plan.
Will there be restrooms?
That has been discussed,
Okay.
so.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, it was certainly identified as a need, through the parks planning process. Then it's a matter of figuring out, A, how to deploy that, and B, you know, the cost and maintenance, and then, you know, it,
Cause you could potentially, with those, buildings, do some more murals on them. Okay, that would look nice.
there's actually a recommendation that'll come out in the Parks Master Plan for a trails project. And there's also a recommendation for a community signage project that could be not just parks, but kind of a community signage, kind of take off on what the BCDA and Chamber has done previously and expand that to pick up on you know, again, deploying directional signs and then signs within parks, as well as in other locations. So that believe me, it's a lot of work to get a parks master plan, but that's when the work really starts.
Very much. City manager report.
Nothing really to bring up, other than we'll keep posting about the progress of the construction and when streets are gonna close and get those push notifications out.
So if I Google search that on the website, it'll tell me.
Yeah, there's an updated
There's
schedule.
a calendar on there. Okay.
It is on the, in the project page. So
Okay.
yep, so in those project pages, you can click on it, find the projects, and all the schedules are there.
Okay. Any questions of the city manager? The council comments.
I have one. So I've been asked by a couple of people about the fire breaks and if the current code is adequate to prevent a similar occurrence from happening. And if it wouldn't be better to till the ground around those properties as opposed to just mowing them. Or at least going deeper into the property for those vacant lots. Something. And so there's some conversations out there in the rest of the world asking specifically about that, and so I just wanted to bring that up as a
Yeah, and all the,
concern.
when I've looked at other codes, I have not found one that addresses tilling, like moving the ground like that. There's a lot of ones that have the height of the weeds, 6-inch, 12-inch, whatever. But yeah, no, we're definitely looking into that. That will be up for the updates.
So I think one of the things, because I was on the council when we put that particular code into effect. And many of the vacant lots are not level. So there's a lot of hills and valleys on the inside that you would recognize just as you drive by, even at 20 miles an hour. So just mowing to a different height wouldn't maybe take all of the, it might not even be possible in a standard format. So the only way to really get around would be go all the way around and find some way to make that more secure. But I don't know if tilling's even an option, like would that even work? You know? Just throwing it out there.
But it definitely is in discussion for sure.
Okay.
I have two quick comments, kind of add on what she's talking about is. If you're able to buy a lot, you should be able to have the money to maintain your lot. It's kind of how I look at it. And some of these lots for years have not been maintained. They haven't been taken care of, and there we go. So I'll just leave that at that. Second thing, the mural at the car wash, really nice. Like it, you know, we used to own the hardware store, and so we had that mural on the side there, and that was one of the stipulations when we sold it, please don't paint over it. And so, same thing with the library. you know, I brought it up once, before or whatever. I like the idea of murals throughout the town. It gives your town more of an identity than just, you're just Boardman, okay? Now it's a destination. Where, my family's from, we talk about parks and different things like that. Putting stuff in their themes or whatever, like one of the themes they have there, they actually have dinosaurs that they built there. And they're quite large, and so, people go there all the time. To, in one of their main parks, it's right in the middle of the town. The only reason why I know is because my uncle used to be the parks director there. He volunteered for 20, 30 years. When he passed away, they just painted a brand new mural there on the restroom wall there, and just now everybody knows. It's really nice, spruces it up. I think that's important too, so just throwing that out there.
Any other council comments?
I wanna say that, I've asked on August 7th. The chief of police is going to be the speaker at the senior luncheon. And I've added one on.
To not to attend?
At noon.
Tell us not to attend, is that what you're saying?
No, you can come and hassle him. I'd be happy to have more people come hassle him. We're lining up a lot of questions and, so he can talk about, what did I tell you to talk about? The fires
And the water.
and I want you to talk about,
Fire department is supposed to be there as well.
right,
So I'll talk to chief, maybe he can come, volunteer, yeah.
Volunteer me?
Yeah.
Volunteer.
Voluntold.
You said the 7th?
but anyway,
What date?
I think it's the 8th.
the 7th, it's this Thursday,
Oh, it's Thursday.
so it's tomorrow.
We don't work.
Day after tomorrow.
We're off on that day.
Okay, so, and on the 12th, I've asked, Stephen Davis, the public transportation person, which we call Loop. They're going to run a bus from Boardman to Heppner for the fair, back and forth, so I thought maybe he's gonna come and speak to the seniors so that we know. And just give him an opportunity. I think more people are taking advantage of the bus system. And then, city manager Hammond is going to come on the 19th and talk to us about why there's so much open dirt around here. And tell us how it's gonna be paved and how our town's gonna be beautiful here in a couple more months. So,
I have two more if you're done.
and I think that I did all my other updates
You got
during
that,
the
yeah.
break, so. Go for
Okay, you, Brenda.
So I might have even forgotten one of them by now, but, I just wanted to encourage anybody in the audience or on the council who knows another person or another entity that would be interested in a Change X grant to, look into it, because there are ways to get pockets of dollars to help fund projects that you might have in your business, your community, your hobby. Ways that you can improve the community that you live in. With very little work on the grantees side. So when you go to ask for it, it's not that hard to do.
And the Columbia River Clinic over here, their open picnic deal is on the 15th. And I don't know if the city wants to have a little booth over there.
We do,
Good job.
signed up.
Okay,
You got kudos.
so here's lots of things for you to attend.
Anything else?
I think I'm out.
You're out. Any other council comments? We're almost out of time. We are out of time, so the mayor comment's gonna be very short. July 18th will be the day I'll always remember. It's the first day of being, starting my new job as a firefighter. And, I hope I don't get emotional on this, but, I never thought that day would come where I would be a mayor and be witnessing our city burning down, and that was, really hard to not, to fight the fire, but at the same time, not think about the city, so when you had your relax time, it's like, it was really, really hard. To see the pain and suffering that, citizens of Boardman were going through. I wish there was, and maybe there was, a drone picture of all the help that showed up. To be able to see around the fire station, just everybody getting together to help. And, as kind of said in the mayor message, when the call came out, everybody came when they could. And that, they put aside whatever differences they had and they came. And, that was really cool to see, and to witness. And, so. I'll always remember that day. Yeah, and so, but anyway, that's all I have to say. So.
Mayor, before you adjourn, on the public hearing that we had earlier, the very last line of the script says that we need some level of direction.
I remember seeing that.
And we didn't get that, and,
The level of direction for
Yeah,
as far as on
the shipping containers, I don't know what to bring back to you next month. I mean, you concluded the public hearing. I don't know what to bring back to you, so we need to come.
I think we came up with it was only
The one change.
I think that was the change that we were talking about.
So I guess if we bring that back as a full adoption package next month with that one change, that's where I'll head. My other question to you all would be, because we do have people who are interested in pursuing under those new regulations, would you be comfortable with an emergency clause to make the ordinance effective immediately or within 7 days?
It doesn't seem like an emergency.
Yeah, I don't think this is an emergency. Yeah.
Just because somebody wants it done, it would be an emergency. That's my opinion.
So we'll just come back
That's one thing.
for the next council meeting and we'll just be ready to adopt it.
We'll bring it back as an ordinance, and the ordinances usually have a 30-day, right, 30 days? A 30-day effective period, so we'll just leave it as the normal 30-day effective period. Okay, thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you, but I
direction.
kind of just was like, thought that it was kind of, but we didn't say it. Was
Thank you,
perceived,
yes.
but, yeah, thank you for that. All right, anything else? This meeting is adjourned.
Pretty swell.